Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our masterclass called How to Transition from Employee to Entrepreneur. It is Friday afternoon, so we know this is the beginning of the weekend. We wanted to welcome you all, and we're so excited to be here. We would love to see your faces. So if you feel inclined, we'd love to be able to see who we're talking to. Please go ahead and turn your video on. Hey, Kate, good to see you. Yay, I love it. So as people are jumping in, we just want to remind everybody to make sure that you have a journal, a pen to write with, perhaps some coffee, tea, or maybe it's 5 o'clock where you're at. That's up to you. So we're here in New York, East Coast, and we're really excited that you're joining us today.
And we appreciate people joining right on time. And, you know, you appreciate everybody else's time. You're very respectful. So we appreciate and honor you for that. I'd just like to add that, you know, try to be here and nowhere else. If you have pets and kids and whoever else that might disturb you, it's just 90 minutes. So if you're here, there's a reason you're here, and therefore it must be an important conversation. And you know, we're ourselves have been through that journey, so we want to be able to share whatever questions you have at the end. So we want to leave enough time for you to ask away as well.
Beautiful. So I am Trisha Ramos. This is Raju Panjwani. You'll hear more about who we are later. In the meantime, we're going to begin by, I'll share our screen here, and we are going to go ahead. Just give us a thumbs up if you're able to see our screen. I think you can see the screen. I hope you can see the screen. If not, no one's video is on, so we can't see. Kate, can you see your screen? Can you give us a thumbs up? Uh-oh. I think we, let's see. Yes, can you see the screen, Kate? Melanie says yes. Thank you, Melanie. Good to see you on here, Melanie. Maybe I can see your face later. It's been a while. All right. There you are. Yay.
Hi, Melanie.
We'll talk later. We will definitely have opportunity to chat a little bit later. It's good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. And we want to show you just some images here. The first one is what you would normally take with you when you're going on an adventure, right? So you've got equipment, proper footwear, water bottle, any equipment that you need to make sure that you're prepared. And we wanted to start off by showing you these images because we really do think that the entrepreneur journey is one that is an adventure for sure. So the first picture there is about the tools, the preparation and the intention behind what it is that you are wanting to create and put forth in the world. And the next image to the right of that, you can see, these hikers with their dog. And what we really want you to look at here is the colors of the mountains, the landscape. So the closer it is to us, the more defined it is. And the further away we get, those mountains that are in the distance, they're a little bit more grayed out. And I love this image because it speaks to how when we are in the middle of it, we can tend to take things very black and white. And, it's like the thing we talk about when we're in the weeds. We see, what we think is super, super clear. But as you go further in the distance, you'll have to have more capacity to handle the gray, to handle the uncertainty, that things are not quite as defined. And are you going to be okay with that? So that's what this image is showing you.
The next one on the lower left the beautiful gold, is really about the gap. You're all, in this situation, if you're here, you're really figuring out where you want to go. Can you take the jump? Can you take the leap of faith? So this gap there's always a gap from where we are to where we want to go. And the symbol here of the tightrope walker who is crossing that gap, he's created a bridge for himself or herself. Can't tell if it's a woman or a man. The idea is that there is a way that you can actually find the way to bridge that gap, and we'll talk more about it as we go along. And the picture on the right really ties into, when you jump into something, water, as in this case, you're here. If you're going to take that leap of faith, you're going to create a ripple effect, and presumably that's why you're here. Because if you really want to be on the journey to entrepreneurship, which is fraught with all sorts of adventurous things, sometimes hazardous, sometimes fun as well, you're going to have to trust. And so you need to, the idea is that you jump in, you're going to create a ripple effect for those who you care for and those who you want to impact in your life.
I read a quote just the other day. It was something like, if you look before you leap, you won't jump. Because part of this is something that doesn't make sense, right? Like you'll hear as we continue to share our story, that this journey is full of decisions made from the heart. And, there's only so much thinking that we can do before it actually gets in the way. So, just write that down. If you look before you leap, you won't jump. However, like I love this video because they're just really showing you, you just go, right?
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of ripple effects, like here you have a visual, an image looking top down. If you were to look at a ripple effect. And the reason why we wanted to show this to you is we're going to present to you the information that we have for you in a framework. And the first one of the 3-step framework is called Reignite. And Reignite, as you can see, is something that starts from within and then it goes out like a ripple. And the idea behind that is that to make lasting and sustainable changes to your external world, you must begin from within. This is so important. Please take a screenshot, write this down. Very often we think that we're able to change our environment, change our external circumstances, but until you start from within and get clear on why you want to make that change, it's not going to last. And we talk about this all the time. It's the reason why people leave jobs, look for another job, but then they end up bringing the same type of circumstances with them, or maybe
and they proliferate the same thing that they've been, experiencing.
Right. Or maybe, you go from one relationship to another thinking like it was the other person, but because you never really did the inner work, you end up perpetuating the same outcomes.
Yep.
So to make lasting and sustainable changes to your external world, one must begin from within.
So Reignite is all about where you are, because we can only start with where we are. So let's reignite you. And often you might ask, is this possible? Is it possible? So when do you know you're ready? We've been through our journeys. We'll go through that. So you're considering many things. Presumably one of the things you're considering is your family's security, and yourselves, your safety, making sure that you're taken care of. The second typical reason is lifestyle preservation. We're afraid of that, you become an entrepreneur and suddenly your lifestyle will go for a toss. And we rather live in that comfort of the equilibrium, and anything that's going to shake that, you will start to wobble because, oh, what if this happens or what if that happens? So what is the way that you can move beyond your protective self and making sure you're safe and secure, and then to also preserve how you've been living? That will be controlled by the depth. And we're going to repeat this a few times, the depth of your desire beyond where you are today. So this is speaking to the gap earlier. How deep is your desire to go on the other side? that man was on the tightrope. He was willing to take that chance, creating the balance, making sure he stayed steady to get to the other side. But we know that's not easy. So if you're again, take a screenshot of this, if you would, make some points about this in your journal, because this is the time to reflect and really figure out whether you're ready. And how do you know if you're ready? Are you really clear about these considerations for you? Because if there's something that's burning inside of you to express who you are to the world in the way only you can do, well, that's what the world's waiting for. So the question is, how deep is your desire? As they also say, the richest place, the wealthiest place in the world is the graveyard. And why is that? Because many people, generations of people, have died with not using their heart and the gifts that they've been given, because they play safe.
So we're not gonna die with our dreams. We're gonna manifest these things, okay?
You betcha.
So I love this. I love the question, is it possible? So whatever it is that you want to do, many of you are still in your jobs, and perhaps you've started to dip your toe into entrepreneurship. Whatever that is for you, the question to ask yourself is it possible for you to make that leap? And now, write down this question. Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Right? Like the masterclass today could not be so clear. This is how to transition from employee to entrepreneur. And a great question to start is to be able to find, the answer to why do you want to be an entrepreneur? So whatever that may be for you, if you're able to, if you're willing, you can type that in the chat box. If you would rather not type it in the chat box because you want to keep it to yourself, we'll be fine with you writing it in your journal. And we'll say that there's so much magic that happens on these masterclasses when people are willing to be bold and to show up, right? Because what it is for you, you never know when something that you say or an input you make can impact somebody else's life. Because at the end of the day, all we're all really looking for, all we ever really need is just one idea to change the trajectory of our lives. So why do you want to be an entrepreneur? If you're willing, go ahead and type that in the chat box. And as soon as you have that answer, ask yourself again, why? So maybe you write an answer. Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Well, I want to have, freedom with my time. Then write down why. Why do I want to have freedom with my time? Write your answer below that. Now take that next answer as to why you might want that thing, that first thing that you said. Ask another why. So what you're going to do is you're going to go 5 levels deep, asking why, taking each answer and taking it through another series of why. To drill down, again, this speaks to the depth of your desire, to really get to the root of where this desire is coming from, this dream that you have, so that when you finally get to the true answer for you, you will actually know it, because it's going to be something where you'll see it on your paper and then you'll be able to release and exhale. You'll literally get to that level of answer and then you'll say, wow, that's it. And it's something that is so powerful when you reach it. It's so powerful that it allows you to stand more firm, more committed, with more conviction to the vision that you're creating for yourself. So the entrepreneurship journey, of course, is not easy. If it were, more people would do it. And if you are seriously exploring, embarking on that adventure, then you want to be firmly rooted in why you're doing it in the first place.
Can I just add something to this? The one way, since if you're not sharing, that's okay. Do this exercise with someone who knows you well. And this way you will have an exchange, and you will get deep, pretty deep, to get to your depth of desire.
Awesome.
So commonly heard in the business world is, what is your risk appetite? Tied to the questions we asked you earlier. What is your risk appetite to actually take that leap? So we're going to share some questions for you to think about, and start reflecting on what it is that journey might be for you, and are you really ready for it, tied to all the previous questions. Number one.
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Are you really ready for it, by the way, is a trick question. Because the only thing that we need to know to be able to answer if we're ready, actually, guess what? The readiness is a decision. So these questions are going to help you have more clarity. However, when you're ready is your decision.
Correct.
Okay, because it doesn't matter what the external circumstances look like. If deep within you have clarity and you decide, the external circumstances follow. So we just want to make sure that you don't use these questions as your decision, as the thing that influences you. These are questions to help you get clarity, but your decision is just that, your decision.
Right. The whole idea of the masterclass is that you get clarity around where you're at. So number one is, do you have a history of willingly taking on accountability and responsibility? Number two, do you want to financially own the results of your failure or success? Three, to what degree is your motivation to reach your goals intrinsic or extrinsic? Four, does the fear of failure prevent you from pursuing challenging or life-changing dreams or goals? Five, have you or would you make short-term sacrifices in order to achieve your long-term goals?
So this is a good one to take a screenshot of, because these are questions you're going to want to reflect deeper on, hopefully immediately after this masterclass or over the weekend. Really journal your answers to these questions. So with Reimagine, so that was Reignite, and Reignite was all about getting clarity within you, right? It's all about, if you were to imagine a flame, reigniting that flame within you so that you can use that flame, one, to get you going, and two, to be able to illuminate from within what the possibilities could be for you. So that's Reignite. The next phase that we want to take you through is Reimagine, right? So this is where we start to answer the question, how, if I were to be an entrepreneur, if I were to make the leap from employee to entrepreneur, how would it be possible? How is it possible? Okay, so we want to begin this portion of our lesson talking to you about the levels of consciousness. And today we're going to talk to you about 3 levels of consciousness, which as human beings, we all navigate through. The first level of consciousness is life happens to me. And in this level of consciousness, we experience the world as an observer, right? Like life is just happening to me. I got promoted because somebody recognized it. I had bad luck because, someone didn't do something to see me. So in this level of consciousness, life is really being experienced from a victim standpoint, right? Like where the person experiencing it is not really feeling the ownership, right? Life is just happening to you. The next level of consciousness is life happens by me. And if you're here, chances are you know this level of consciousness really well because you live this way. If it's to be, it's up to me. If I want to get anything done, I have to take the bull by the horns, make it happen. And this is really a great level of consciousness to initiate things, to get things started perhaps to get you out of the life happens to me consciousness, where you stop seeing yourself as a victim of your circumstances and you start to take charge of your experiences. However, you can't stop here, because if you're just living in the life happens by me all the time, then eventually you can burn out, because this level of consciousness doesn't allow for others to help. Usually when we think life happens by me, we are probably exercising too much control or have a false sense of control over our lives and our outcomes. And it can easily have you go into the space of where I can't really ask for help, because this is really up to me. It's my problem. It's my issue. So I have to fix it. And these first two levels of consciousness are fear-based consciousness. They are very much about survival. And what we want to challenge you with today is to begin experiencing your life as if it's happening through you, where you can then move from more of a love-based consciousness and you see yourself as interconnected to the whole, where you start to recognize that you might not have all the answers to all of your issues, and then you have the humility to reach out to somebody else, ask for assistance. You recognize that you might have something that might be of service or might fill somebody else's needs, and you begin to be less concerned about your own survival, and you start to pay attention more towards the benefit of more. And your contribution then becomes something where more can thrive from, versus just for you or your immediate circle. So we wanted to begin this Reimagine conversation with the level of consciousness life happens to me, by me, and through me, and to have you recognize that all of these levels are available to you at all times. There's not one of us walking around, I'm just the to me person, or I'm just the by me person. We want you to understand that at any given moment in time, we are all moving through these different levels. And so what we invite you to begin to want to do is to begin observing yourself so that you can begin to notice where you're operating from.
This is a pretty big crux of what we do with our clients. The why we went through with you earlier, why it is you want to be an entrepreneur. That is the key. You probably have studied books about the why. It's really the crux of why you should do anything in life. And if you can take this as a tip, that these 5 or 7 levels of depth that we talked about, that Trisha mentioned earlier, you can apply this to many parts of your life. So whether it's jumping to make a decision, think about why you want to do anything at all, because ultimately we will not take the leap of faith if we are focused on the how. The why and the what are the keys to focus on. However, most of us get scared, don't take the next step, because we're afraid of what's going to happen if I fall into that gap. What if this happens? What if that happens? So that's a fear-based way of thinking. And if you think about your life, your past, and we talked about that in the Reignite. Now you want to be reimagining your next step. If you think back all the things you thought about in your head, in your mind, how many fears you had about anything in the past, how many of those really turned out to be true? I'd venture to say probably 95+% of them never even occurred. And most of those fears, the thoughts that drive those fears, disappeared within a short time, but we spend so much time in that thinking space. So we encourage you to really trust, which comes to the point about, what it is you're going to trust, what it is going to allow you to trust and take that leap, because it's the why and the why, because it's so strong. The depth of your desire is so strong. You have to obsess about that. So what we say is focus on the why and the what and let the how unfold.
So I love that Kate, one of our participants shared her why. Her why is that others profit from her creative ideas and business knowledge. So I encourage the rest of you to, if you're able to, type in your why as well. There's nothing that is more empowering than just like making a declaration. Even though Kate doesn't know anybody here, you know, when you make that declaration, you stand your ground. You're sort of saying, yeah, that's right. This might not be real today, but it's real in my head, which means it's real now. And just to underline what Raju was just saying, we're not saying the how is not important. We're just saying don't lead with it, because how is always tied to logic and reasoning, which means if you are letting your logic and reasoning lead you, then you're already automatically limited to what you've experienced in the past. But if you're going to someplace new that you've never been to before, it's really less important what you've done in the past, because this new situation is going to present obstacles, circumstances, you know, potentiality that doesn't exist. The word potential speaks to the fact that you haven't seen it yet.
Correct.
So that's why you want to get clear on your why and your what, and then the how follows.
And you'll hear from others who've been through this journey later on, you know, just like we've been through, because the moment you take the focus away from the how, oh my God, life can change so dramatically. So that speaks to the fact that there is, you know, you call it divine nature, God, whatever it is that you trust in, because ultimately when we're in some sort of trouble or there is pain or tragedies or other things that happen to so many of us in life, you also know that if you lead with that heart and you trust something, then you've heard this before, the universe conspires to deliver it to you, because the universe is always about helping you. But we're so focused on all the negatives and the fear and the self-doubt, which is part of the how, is why we don't move forward. And we're just asking you to think about this seriously if you really are going to want to be an entrepreneur and lead with the heart and not with the logic and the reasoning. So this is the time for you to start jotting down things as to what would take for you to create your vision of the new you, because once you put behind the past and all the programming of the past, you really want to make a fresh beginning. You don't forget about the past, but you really want to start with today and manifest in the future what you really truly desire by leading with not fear, but with love and this unified consciousness.
You know what just came to me when you said, don't forget about the past, because I'm like, whatever, the past is the past. However, you know what I think is useful for remembering the past? Remembering the past is useful for you to be able to collect evidence of every single time in the past you experienced discomfort, dissatisfaction, obstacles, challenges. And now that you are far away from that situation, you know that saying, hindsight is 20/20. Now you can actually see that event for what it was, and perhaps it brought you, you know, to a better place. Only at the time we didn't know it. You didn't know it because you were judging it as something you didn't want. But imagine if that thing never happened. Maybe, I mean, what else wouldn't have happened if that thing never happened, right? So we sort of say this loosely to have you to begin to think about the continuity of life. And while the past is the past, and we really want you to get present with yourself in the future to bridge the gap to the future that you see, we are saying that if you can create a vision of the new you and imagine it, we're going to propose to you, and you can take this idea or leave it. If you believe that time is not linear, that it's not just about 3D, that we are multidimensional beings, and quantum, actually time is about quantum, and that when things are happening through you, it seems like the world is just moving in your favor, in your direction, all of those imaginations or visions that we have, we're going to say that in the quantum thinking and the quantum space, you've already experienced that to some degree already anyway, which is why you can think about it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to bring it to mind. So the reality, even though in physical manifestation that you're awake, you're not experiencing that version of you yet. The fact that he is there or she is there and you are walking in the direction of meeting him or her, that already is enough to guide you to know, one foot in front of the other, it's time to go. And trust that when you move this way with the divine support, letting life happen through you, people, circumstances, situations present themselves to you that will empower you to keep going in the direction that feels aligned. Malini says, I want to have control of my destiny. So those of you that are writing your whys in the chat box, that's great. And we invite you to keep taking them deeper. Like, Kate, take that why deeper. Melanie, take that why deeper. Why is it important for you to have control of your destiny? So, and then everybody else who just joined us or you've been here, go ahead and use the chat box. So we're going to take a pause from the lesson, for example, for a minute and just share a little bit about who we are. Collectively, we have over 75 years combined experience in corporate as well as entrepreneurship. And yeah, of course, you can guess that's mostly him. So, that speaks to the whole.
I'm not chuckling.
That speaks to the whole. Yes, you are. Okay. So I want to just share really quickly about Raju. Raju spent, over 35 years in corporate, and 18 of those years he spent at Morgan Stanley. And he's held multiple leadership roles and global roles throughout his career. He's a startup leader for the past 16 years, and his experience cuts across securities markets, risk management, investment banking, fintech, technology-enabled services, and asset management. So helping others build conscious businesses is his passion. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an employee turned entrepreneur. I left a retail career with a company I'd been with for over 20 years. I left 2.5 years ago and launched my coaching business as a high performance coach full-time. And, my passion really lies in helping my clients who are entrepreneurs through deep transformative work that allows them to free themselves so that they can focus on their growth and contribution to others. So that's just a little bit about who we are.
So, our company is called Live Masterminds, and we're going to give you a little quick, recap as to how we met. Individually, we were at a mastermind, which is really a group of people, like-minded people there for personal and professional growth. The idea was to really, form your accountability and through coaching, through other ways, masterminds. You can look it up what that means. So I was part of it for a year. This was my second one. And then I met Trisha there about 2 years ago now. And long story short, one day I woke up, literally, this is what happened, with divine support, as we say. I know she was working on her own coaching programs, and I was thinking about launching something. And one morning, that's my memory, that I woke up one day and said, hey, Trisha, do you want to work with me? I'm thinking of launching this coaching business in India. Very little, thought given to what I was saying.
And I said, yeah.
And she said yes before I could even say the next sentence.
Just like that. Yeah.
It's like, oh, I said, do you know anything about India? Do you know anything about me? She said,
no. And that's a perfect reason to go.
So that's the demonstration of the trust in the unknown, because our what and why individually was so clear. And so we talked about this, on some hikes and walks, that, what am I thinking? What are you thinking? I'm doing this, you're doing that. So it really was then sitting down and figuring it out. And within 2 weeks, literally within 2 weeks, we had a plan to launch 3 mastermind groups, 2 days each, kind of like workshops for 2 full days in India, because it's a country of entrepreneurs. And I happen to know a lot of people that could help me expand the message, create that ripple effect we talked about. So that was kind of my thinking, and heart-led, that I wanted to help others. And this aligned with what Trisha was doing, and in a new country. And we trusted it. We had three workshops in 3 different cities. And of course, you know what happened. March 8th was our departure date. And we had enough indication that there were 20 countries where there was something called COVID hitting. And we decided to go anyway, because just like,
well, the plane was taken off, so we had no
Right.
reason not to go.
So both Trisha and I were individually thinking, well, if the flight's going, we're going. And so that's what we did.
So needless to say, none of our events occurred the way we planned, because it wasn't too long. About a week later, India ended up going on lockdown. And what was cool though is we pivoted, and we instead hosted Zoom calls for the people who were supposed to go to our events. So we hosted Zoom calls, they were free. And over the course of 10 days, we ended up hosting 6 calls. So we totally just pivoted, decided to offer it for free. And then on our last day that we offered it, we said, okay, we're going back to New York. At this point, it was the end of March, beginning of April. We're going back home. We're going to do monthly calls. You're free to join us. This is how much it costs. So that's how our subscription monthly coaching program began. And when Raju and I came back to New York, we realized there was a need here as well, in that I had clients approaching and saying, they wanted coaching because they weren't sure how long, the quarantine and the lockdown was going to be. They weren't sure about what was happening with their jobs. People felt uncertain, and they wanted to be sure that they were going to come out of the uncertain period better than they were before. So we quickly pivoted again, and we were like, well, maybe we should create a group coaching program and, collaborate again, this time, like really collaborate. And we ended up launching that 12-week group program. And then 60% of those people enrolled in a 6-month mastermind that we created as a result of that program. We launched a second group program. And then late last year, we started a podcast called Bold Conscious Connections. So we just wanted to highlight that for you, to sort of just show you that our journey began with, very differently, in the sense that we were clear on our what and our why, on who it was we wanted to serve and why, but the how just unfolded in the way that it did. And we just kept going with it. And there's more we're going to share. But before we do, Nirav, how are you? He says, one life. His why is one life. He wants to build something that creates a dent in the universe. Beautiful. Take it even further, Nirav.
Go
Take
7
it
levels,
even further.
Go 7 levels deep,
Yes.
at least, Nirav.
Beautiful.
So to give you that live masterminds, where it was and where it is, if you had asked me then, look where we are. So we were collaborating, and then we became partners, fall of last year, because this was all unfolding and we didn't really know all the details. So anyway, going back to.
So we show you this picture, not so that I can brag and say, I went to the Taj Mahal. It wasn't about that. We really want you to notice the date. So if you're in America, which most of you are, March 13th was the Friday when most people were told not to come to work on Monday, or if you had kids, keep them home, because the US officially started
13th.
like shutting down.
Yeah.
And we had, of course, heard from our families, oh my God, come back home, US is shutting down. India was still very much open, and we thought, oh, let's take advantage of the fact that people are staying home and let's go, because maybe the lines won't be long. So here we are, being adventurous.
And at this point, we still think on the 17th, we're hosting our first, 2-day program in New Delhi. So we had the weekend. So we figured I'd show Trisha around a little bit.
And then this is the day after. This is in, where were we?
This is the Red Fort in New Delhi, in Old Delhi.
Yeah, so you see me, I'm just like, oh, look, lockdown around the world, but we're good, and kind of like clueless, the food picture in the middle is just to show you that night we went out to dinner and everything was shutting down. We found this one restaurant that was open and they were like, oh, this is our last night open. We're closing down indefinitely tomorrow. So we were kind of in this space of having excitement for our upcoming events, sort of feeling like, oh, shoot, is this really happening? Are we crazy? Like what? We're out here. Is the world really, is this gonna? And we just kept going. And then Raju thought that we should take a pedicab ride in like the most busy part of, what is this called?
This is Chandni Chowk. This is like the densest part of the Delhi area. And you can't walk with, nobody being more than 2 inches from you. It's just insane. So here we are. If there was COVID or whatever, boy, it could have just destroyed us right there. But anyway, we're survivors and we're there. So we were in this it was like this wide where you could, two people were sitting there and there were.
Yeah. And there were like craters, like crazy craters. I thought I was going to pop out of that seat. Kate, did you ever go to India? Because I know you were a buyer. Oh, nice. Beautiful. All right. So you've probably been to these places. Oh wait, you're muted. We'll come back to you. We'll come back. So the inevitable happened on March 19th. So needless to say, the Delhi event never happened. We went back to Mumbai where the second event was supposed to be. We thought we'd go to Zoom, live stream it. And then the day before we were going to do the Zoom live stream 2-day event in Mumbai. The health department came to quarantine us because now the US was put on the bad list. And so here I'm showing off my stamp. You can now see my facial expression is one of, uh-oh, I don't know what's happening. Is this really happening? And I'm kind of sad here and really freaking out inside.
That's the bewildered look, but it's okay, whatever. I'm just putting a label on.
So here's just a picture of the one of the Zoom sessions we had for entrepreneurs and business owners in India. And then we finally were evacuated on a US government sponsored flight on April 4th to fly back. You can see I'm not even wearing my mask correctly because I don't even know how to wear the mask at that point. And it was really, this is where sort of the adventure really like, wow, are we going back home to New York where it supposedly at that point was the hotbed for COVID. And it was really, there's a book that's going to come out about this adventure.
So this was would normally be maybe a 15 to 18 hour door-to-door trip. This was 35 hours of major angst. And
we got on the plane and they told us we're
going to Atlanta.
Yeah, well, we didn't actually know where we were landing because they told us that, be prepared to land wherever in the United States. So that was
so this was a cheek-to-cheek flight, 18 hours, no distancing or nothing. And you had to wear the mask. Oh my God. Anyway.
So we just wanted to show you some of the early adventures that occurred there. Now we're going to take you to the next part of our presentation, which is the third phase. Once you've gone through Reignite and you've gone through the exercises for Reimagine, where you are getting more clarity on your level of consciousness. You're also getting more clear on your what and your why and releasing perhaps your attachment to the how. Now, the question that we want you to be able to answer with regard to your journey is, what needs exist in the world that haven't been met? Earlier, Nirav, you said, I want to make a dent in the world. And that's exactly what this question is about. If you were to go on this adventure of entrepreneurship, that is the question. What needs exist that haven't been met? So what's going to follow here are 10 lessons, 10 of our own collective wisdom that we've gathered, that our clients have also gathered, people that, our mentors, our coaches. So these are the discoveries that we want to share with regard to how you'll go about answering this question. And give yourself permission to recreate your portion of your world, right? So the first one is question your beliefs. Get curious. It's so important anytime you're starting something new that you get present to the fact that you don't know everything. And so the sooner you tap into curiosity, the sooner you start to question what you believe to be possible, what you believe to be true about you, the sooner you get curious about who you think you are and what you're capable of, the better you set yourself up. Because what this is really saying is whatever perceived limitations we have in the past, or whatever experiences that we've had in the past or seen in the past, none of that matters. And we all have been, and this is going to sound odd that I'm saying this, but 2020 can be viewed to be a blessing if you see it as something that wiped the slate clean. So whether it's marketing, whether it's retail, whether it's banking, it doesn't really matter what industry you're in. Because of last year's events, everything that we know to be true prior to last year, guess what? It's all been wiped out anyway, and we all get to now participate and play and be a part of creating what the next looks like.
Second question. This is, again, hardcore learning firsthand and listening to everybody else's stories that I've encountered. You have to find, because this is a tough journey, a sustained way to stay motivated and stay committed to personal growth. Most of you are here, you clearly are oriented towards this idea that you always want to go to the next level and the next level. And this is not only endemic to human beings in a certain way, but you have to tap into that, the need for growth. It's also because it's so easy to go back to comforts of the past and the habits of the past. And the more habitual you become about certain things, you become more and more unconscious. And since we are talking to
I think that's such an important point. Can you say that again?
About what?
The more habitual you become?
Well, habits are by definition unconscious. I mean, think about you brushing your teeth in the morning. How conscious were you when you were brushing your teeth? It's a habit. That's a great habit, because otherwise people around you would complain. But it's the idea is that you want to inculcate certain things into you, make it second nature and make it unconscious, because they're so wonderful, those practices. But many of us need to start going back to the first point about questioning your beliefs, curiosity, but that's beliefs. The second here is really about looking at how we become habitual to things that don't serve us. And because habits by definition are unconscious, you have to be conscious about why you want to be committed to growth. Because from 5 startups of my personal experience, and now on the 6th, it is so easy to get demotivated. It is so easy to go off track. It is so easy to just go back to old habits and say, you must screw this. I'm crazy to have started this journey of entrepreneurship. But what sustains you is the commitment that I don't know everything and I'm ready to grow.
So speaking of so many ways that, you know, if you don't have this commitment, you can be just lose your way, is we're not short on distractions these days. And if you're an entrepreneurial minded person, chances are you have lots of ideas, or people bring to you lots of ideas. So be wary of shiny object syndrome. Be aware of how fear of missing out, FOMO, can get in the way of you and your plans. See, the thing is, when we have jobs and we have deadlines and we work with teams of people, you know, it's sort of easy to stay on track. But when you begin this journey and you're just with you and no one's over your shoulder and you don't have to like necessarily, you know, report, what you did
Mhm.
that week to anybody, and you're only accountable to you. This is really how most people start out, is just you or maybe one other person. You're going to have to notice your own appetite, how much of your time is being lost to distraction. And a word about the shiny object syndrome. When people find out that you have left your job maybe, or that you're starting something new, because of who you are, everybody that shows up here, those of you that I know, you're all highly like reliable people. People trust you, people like you. So it's not going to be unusual for your friends, your colleagues, ex-coworkers to invite you to do something with them. Like, do this with me, do this partnership, do this venture, I have a business opportunity. That's not going to be unusual. That will come to you. And you're going to have to be so tied to your what and your why. This is why it was important to do the reignite exercise in the beginning, so that you can learn to say no, so that you can be committed to your own vision that you're creating. Because our ability to succeed and to put forth what it is that we are creating depends on our ability to say no. And saying no is hard. Trust me, especially if you're a recovering people pleaser, right here. Like, then you're like, oh, well, they need help. Oh, I really could be, I could
I'll
really
raise my
do
hand too.
it. Or yeah. And the thing is, that's not really doing anything other than feeding your ego. Yes.
Mhm.
Remember I told you I was with my company that I was with for 20 years. I probably was, let me say, I was ready to leave 10 years before I actually left. And why did I stay another 10 years? It was because I kept saying yes to promotions. Oh, well, I'm getting promoted again. Oh, well, nobody can do this. They need my expertise now. So those were all distractions feeding my ego that just kept delaying and delaying my journey. So if you're hearing this and this is resonating with you, that may be something for you to really take a look at. Okay.
This is, again, so important. Accountability and ownership. Ownership / discipline. If you have had the ability to be accountable, hold others accountable, and you hold yourself accountable, that's an awesome thing. So you got to find someone who holds you accountable. But first and foremost, you hold yourself accountable, and you own your stuff, right? And that can come largely through having the discipline and owning the fact that you're pursuing this business or whatever you decide to do. And you will need a lot of it, because determination is one thing, discipline is another. It's really finding a structure within your life in a given day where you're balancing so many things that you need to do. So you would need this discipline. It's partly tied to the distractions idea, but it's the other side of it. You must find a way that no matter what, this is your responsibility, and you're going to pursue this with all these different things we're sharing with you. And this is a super important part of it.
So once you're clear on what that dent is that you want to create in the universe, right? I'm using Nirav's words. Guess what? If you don't now apply discipline to that idea, then you're not owning the thing that only you can do. You're not owning the space that only you can fill. You're not owning your unique, authentic contribution that the world gets to have only when you show up accountable, right? So the number 5 here, so important. Humility is so huge. And we're not just talking about being humble. It's really about humility that lets each other, people, us, lets us recognize that there is so much value in diversity, that in fact, there is unity in diversity, that when we can recognize what our own strengths are, we're going to be that much more adept at recognizing what each other's strengths are. and, strive to become the kind of leader where you're all leaders here. Doesn't matter if you have people reporting to you or not, but strive to be the kind of leader that is able to connect with others around you by seeing them, right? We all want to be seen, heard, and understood. Isn't it nice to work with someone, to do business with someone that sees you? And that is the humility piece, that piece that allows you to value every person, every human being in front of you, regardless of whether or not you think they can benefit you or your experience. Because life, like we said, is this continuous, cyclical experience. And you just really never know when people from your past can show up in your present, like some of you here are from my past experience. And you just also never know, like when Raju and I met at this mastermind 2 years ago, I actually didn't remember meeting Raju, and he loves to tell the story that I don't remember meeting him. But you just really don't know how situations unfold. And this idea of humility is so key. And it isn't about thinking of yourself less, right? It's just like making it less about you and really incorporating everybody else in your experience. So it really adds to that unity consciousness.
On this piece, I could say if there was one big factor for my first startup to kind of disintegrate, it was this one. It's that important. I reflect back and say, oh, I wasn't listening because I thought I could do this on my own. And I didn't listen to many important people in my life at the time.
And, I just think between that and questioning your beliefs and your curiosity, so many people begin this entrepreneurship journey wanting to prove to themselves that they can do it. I just want to go at it on my own. And you know what? That's great. However, you going at it on your own can take so much longer and can really, take the wheels. What am I trying to say?
Take the wheels off the adventure?
I don't know. This is where my ESL kicks in, right? Like I can't do these things. But the idea with like humility and questioning your beliefs is so important, because tapping into others, tapping into people, there's a reason why, you hire other people to do the things you don't know. Don't be that person that thinks you have to do everything on your own, because the more you think that way, the longer it's going to take for you to get going. The longer the people who need you are going to have to wait for you. The longer their lives will take to actually change, because here you are trying to prove something to yourself. So
we're going to now take a little quick break from the list. We're going to come back to 6 to 10, but we want to show you what's possible. If you had asked us this question that Trisha and I would be doing this, you'll see what this is. You could have fooled us, because this thing came up in December of 2020, and look what we did.
The year 2020 changed life as we knew it. It exposed and accelerated the inevitable. Jobs being displaced by technology, human connection vanishing, and with more questions than ever, people are looking for experts to help solve their problems now more than ever. While many industries saw a decline, other industries such as coaching saw a sharp rise as more people worked from home. Rather than being confined to a specific city or state to connect with a coach that is an expert in a given field, you now have access to any coach across the globe. Online coaching, remote work, and virtual learning have now shown us that it is possible to operate a business and learn new skill sets, all from the comfort of your own home. With coaching being the second fastest growing industry, more people are taking their products and services and sharing it on the largest marketplace, the internet. The new challenge then becomes, where can employees transitioning into entrepreneurship find credible experts that can help them start and grow their business? What is our solution?
Our unique solution is a multi-sided platform that allows clients to find coaches, coaches to find clients, and also service providers that are dedicated to working with coaches in launching and scaling their businesses.
I'm Raju Panjwani, and I'm here with Trisha Ramos. We together, by masterminds.com, are corporate leaders. We spent together over 60 plus years in corporate America, and we know what it's like to be a leader and be frustrated knowing that we're not feeling the full expression of who we are. This platform that's being built is really to allow the full expression of who we are.
Who we are corporate leaders who made the transition many years ago to entrepreneurship. And we understand the barriers that exist to make that transition. I've had 5 startups of my own, so I feel like this whole transition for me is designed to bring me to where I am. And I met Trisha a couple of years ago, and it's really been the most satisfying thing that at least I have done. Yeah, me too. We're really passionate about this, if you can't already tell. Well, after the year that we had last year with 2020, so many people were displaced from their corporate jobs. Having come from there, we lived through the experience of going through the day-to-day and at the same time having a desire in our hearts to be of service in another way. Only we couldn't figure out how to make that move. And now that we have so many people that are forced either out of their jobs or perhaps based on life changes chose to leave their jobs, now more than ever, people are aware that life is too short. Finally giving themselves permission to tap into their dreams and build a legacy that they're proud of is more important than ever. There is a reason this is the second fastest growing industry in the world today. Because people now need to solve their problems faster. And from our own experience, we know that using coaches is really a great way to accelerate your growth and to really shorten your learning curve. Great coaches have coaches. That's what makes this industry so unique. Coaches understand that when they experience growth, it's like peeling the onion. As you peel the layers, there are more layers. And we're so proud to be doing this work and to also be a part of an industry that is only going to be expanding as a result of this innate desire we all have to grow, expand, and evolve. And the future of this business is already here in a way that technology never before was able to do this for anyone. The business is global. You can reach anywhere that you are to somebody who's on the other side of the world. The platform that we're building is so unique and so inclusive that it is that this coaching business, there's a reason why it's growing so fast, is because the demand for it outstrips the supply of really good coaches out there. And the reason that the people who are great coaches aren't able to get started is because they are so concerned about how to get started. We, with our experience, can actually show that you can start this business pretty easily, which is why we're building this platform. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and pause this because we're not showing this to you for the investment opportunity. We are merely showing it to you because we want you to see how something that began as mastermind events in India a year and a half ago evolved all the way into something that we would have never been able to come up with on our own. And now we are raising money. This is on a crowdfunding site. And that's just an illustration of what happens when you focus on the what and the why, and you let the how unfold. So whether or not you are someone who wants to be a coach, that's not what we were showing this to you for. We're merely demonstrating how your ideas can blossom into something totally different from where you are beginning. So we hope that you'll take this example and give yourself permission to play, because that's sort of what happened here. Yes. We were literally going with it, being in service. You know, we had clients, and then late last year, right around November, December, we sort of had this, you know, download of this idea, like this is really why we came together. This is truly why we decided to team up. And so we're just really excited to be able to share that with you and hopefully inspire you to not feel like you have to have all the answers before you even begin. Just begin. Give us a thumbs up if that resonates, and then we're going to continue. Awesome. Awesome. We're going to continue with
Number 6.
the next steps. All right. Focusing on the essence.
Go ahead.
This is you.
Doesn't matter.
Oh,
This is us.
this is you. This is you.
This is us.
This is us. This is you. Go.
So this is a demonstration, what we just showed you, essence of, working with stuff. This doesn't mean this live masterminds platform launch of the new thing that we're not doing what we started doing. Everything that we started doing was just to get started, and we built on it. The India trip went in a different direction, so we built something different. We came back here, we had no idea what the next step was. We built the coaching program. So all of these, ultimately, the essence is tied to the fact that we're being of service to entrepreneurs or would-be entrepreneurs, and how we can help them get out of their own way. It was never about the form of what it looks like. So much money in the bank, that's the form. And you start counting, it's not here yet. That was never the focus. Of course, revenues are important, but the form of what it would take, that's an outcome. But we've continued to stay with the essence, and we're suggesting to you that whatever it is you want to do, in Nirav's case, he wants to make a dent to the world, and as you go deeper, you might find that there is a very narrow piece of it that you really start with, and that is the essence. And that'll, once you work through that, the next thing will come, and the next thing will come, and you just don't know what form it would take. And we often talk about, in the old ways of, let's say, dating. I have this vision of who my ideal partner would be. And then you write it all down. And then it turns out the person you actually fall in love with looks nothing like what you thought it would be.
Tanya likes that example.
That's right. She's smiling. So it's the essence of the person, the chemistry, the energy, whatever we call it in that case. Same idea. Don't get hung up on what it looks like. Focus on what it is you're trying to, the essence of it.
Yeah, and that kind of like goes job interviews too. Like we see somebody's resume, they look so great on paper, like the form is right, and then you get them in your office, you start talking, and you just immediately know this does not feel good. And I've done that, and I've overridden myself. Like I've actually said, maybe it's just me, I just don't vibe with the person, but they seem right in so many ways. And man, did I regret that, right? Because I really regretted it, because it was every time that I overrode my intuition, it always bit me. So this idea is so important. Get clear on what the essence is and release your attachment to the form. The next one here is, it's so important to get conscious to the idea that many people who have been entrepreneurs, have become successful, for a long time, they painted this idea that being an entrepreneur means you don't sleep, you hustle, you kind of have to put, things on hold and put it all towards the business. And a lot of people have really shifted from that conversation the last few years, with more and more people recognizing that sleep is important. Arianna Huffington came out with that book Thrive years ago, where she really talked about the importance of rest. And rest and sleep, so important for creativity, so important for paying attention to detail, creating flow. And we're really also being mindful of the fact that a lot of the corporate structures that we've all been in, or we're all coming out of, they're very much masculine in their approach. And this new post-COVID world is shifting towards allowing more of a balance between the masculine and the feminine energies and how you should work. And guess what? The lockdown sort of made it so that like stay home, like you don't even need to go anywhere, sit home, stay at home, and you figure it out anyway, right? So we got to really experience what it was like to pause and actually to dive into different parts of our lives and still get the work done, if you were one of those people that continued to work during that. So there is a danger here of falling into this hustle, busyness. And we're saying to you that you are your vessel. Your physical body is so important that you give it what it needs to be able to rest, to be able to, so that you're nourished and you're setting yourself up for success that way.
Presence in wanting to be everywhere to everyone, we lose presence with ourselves and those who matter most. This is, again, another personal experience. The first 3 years of my first startup, I was so proud. And actually, this was something I was proud of before. Oh, I can do anything. I can make time happen. I can warp time. One time I had to take a flight from Mumbai to New York. And because a client had told me they wanted to see me in Seattle that same day, and there was no other time, I actually flew in from that long flight, similar to the one we just talked about for India, and connected to a flight to Seattle. You can only imagine when I got to Seattle what I was feeling like, almost like a 35, 40-hour journey, because it was important for me to do that. And at the cost of not spending time with my 2-year-old, 6-year-old at the time, who don't remember that I existed in those 3 years of their early years. So I lost a lot of opportunity at that time because I was so focused on trying to please every client, also the shiny object. I would chase every type of company, not being focused. And this actually is so critical to your own essence, because you can't be everywhere, and you just need to be fair to yourself so you can be happy and share your joy with other people that you love and care for so much. So very important.
Number 9 here is self-care. And I'm not talking about manicures, massages, or pedicures. I really want to talk about self-care from a much deeper perspective. So write down in your journal self-care, and then write down, what unhealed wounds am I still holding on to? What traumas am I still holding on to? Because this idea of self-care really is about recognizing and acknowledging that all of us at some point in our distant past have experienced some sort of wound that, whether or not we're aware of it, we let those wounds dictate how we react to day-to-day moments. And why that can be limiting to us is it limits the way that we respond to new situations. Anytime we're faced with uncertainty, it triggers the fight or flight response. And then instead of seeing possibility, we tend to then want to shrink and hide or preserve what we know. So the idea that you're going to go on an adventure to start an entrepreneurship journey is already going to rattle your nervous system. It really will. And if you're not doing the thing you need to do to heal whatever wounds you have that are triggering you, it's not going to be too long before you find yourself breaking down, because the idea that you're going to be embarking on uncertainty, right? Like, think about those first images that we saw when we began, whether it was the tightrope walker between those two cliffs, or maybe it was like the divers jumping. They're doing that with incredible presence of mind, with steadiness, with committed conviction. They're unwavering. But when we are triggered, when we have wounds that are unhealed and something triggers us, we're anything but steady, right? Starting a business is going to involve that people are going to say no to you. They'll say no to your ideas. Clients will, prospect clients will say no to you. You get to still remain steady and unwavering and committed to what it is that you came to do. So this self-care piece, we could not really do the work that we do today if we ourselves didn't do this journey. And so much of what makes us effective as coaches is because not only do we facilitate this for our clients, we do this ourselves. We have coaches that we've hired to help us get into the best state of mind, into the best state of being, so that we can sit here in front of you today and do what we do, regardless of what the outcomes are. So we say self-care, we mean it.
And so that brings us to the point about the role of coaches and mentors. I mentioned earlier about my first startup where the humility piece of me was not really in place. I had two great mentors, though, that I must say that I've built that relationship with them over the years. And to this day, I cannot do without those, and I shouldn't say that I cannot do without. You want to tap into those mentors. You have to find yourself, because you know what it is that you're, and then tied to that is the coaching. Coaching is very different than mentoring. Coaching is, I mean, we still have coaches. We said great coaches have great coaches. We have coaches. Individually, we have lots of things we're working on our own so we can stay ahead of that game, committed to personal growth. So coaching is crucial. We have had so much reliance on coaches as well to accelerate our growth so that things go faster. In elapsed time concept or the linear time concept, you know, who knows how long things take, but coaches help you get to the next level. One of my coaches got me out of a bind just 2 years ago because I wasn't focused on what I thought I should be focused. I thought I was focused on something I want to be focused on. Turns out when they took that flashlight and shined it on the blind spot, I realized I was in a very bad spot, and I need to get out of that. So to steer yourself back into accountability, someone who's holding you accountable and pushing you in the right direction, families who are well-meaning, great friends, great family, that's not who they are. They just love us so much. They cannot be those people that are going to hold us accountable in the way that we need to hold ourselves accountable. So
maybe you have a family who's very supportive of you, and that's great. Or maybe you're one of those people who want to begin this journey and you're not sure how your significant other will feel about it. And what we're saying to you is, you know, people who know us really well are also going to have difficulty and challenges seeing us go on this journey because it's going to be uncomfortable for them too. And the benefit of having somebody that you don't really know guide you is that they have an objective perspective. They're not tied to your identity and they're not tied to your past. They are accountable to you and allowing, and they're there to really help you see the potential of you. Because great coaches, that's what we do, right? We recognize somebody's potential and we go on that journey with you. I love what Giselle wrote here. It's so deep and I so love it. My traumas came out at the 5th why in asking myself why I want to be an entrepreneur.
oh wow,
I can't wait to hear more about that, Giselle, because it's that level of depth that is actually, if you can get to that level of depth, everybody here, that is the unwavering commitment that it takes for you to go on this adventure and to not be distracted or to not be discouraged when difficulties start arising. That level of depth and also it sounds to me like your entrepreneurship journey would be part of your healing journey. And anytime you can do that, that's a true dent you're making in the universe. Because whatever that wound is that you're healing, we all experience the same wounds. We just feel it differently. That level of depth is, that's what's going to make a dent. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. So, we didn't just want to share these points with you without giving you examples. So we're going to play another video for you of actual people that we've worked with in the past. And you'll hear, what we want you to do is listen to what they share, listen to their stories, and see if you can try to pull out where some of these lessons came from based on what they're sharing.
Hello, I'm Sheila Pearl. Some people call me the Love Doctor. I'm a relationship coach and recalibration expert. During the beginning of the pandemic this past year, my income fell by 90%. Like many of us suffering with the cataclysmic effects of this event in our lives, I wasn't sure how I would survive. And I realized I had to do something drastic. When I was offered the bold conscious leadership program, I jumped at it. I didn't know how I would pay for it. But I knew that this was a time in my life when, although I'm on the way to 80, I'm on my way to my 8th decade, I'm not done yet. And yet I was worried that it might be the end of the work that I do in the world. So I took that leap of faith as I knew that coaching generally was what made a difference for me in my life, what makes a difference for others in their lives. That's why I've been a coach for 25 years. If you're not where you want to be in your life, you need a coach. If you want to expand your vision for yourself, you need a coach. I knew that. And yet I needed to be pushed. I needed to be guided. So at the time I started these programs, I was living in a little studio apartment. Again, I had an idea that I was going to expand out of that little studio apartment back into a larger space where I could reestablish my home, which I've done in the past month. I don't think that would have been possible without having the support and the guidance of this wonderful team of teachers and coaches and like-minded colleagues. What will be possible for you in your life if you take advantage of what teachers and leaders like Trisha and Raju bring to the world of expansion and bold conscious leadership? That's up to you.
Hi, I'm Lillian. I'm the owner of Coffee, a fast casual cafe specializing in serving mini Dutch pancake in a variety of flavors here in Fairfax, Virginia. I'm actually so excited that we are going to open our doors for the first time in the end of May of this year, 2021. I joined the program at first with the thought that, it's gonna help me in my entrepreneurial journey to get it started. It definitely has. However, it has done more than just that. It has helped me in the journey to see myself, to be true to myself, so that I can give and serve others. With Trisha's and Raju's mentorship and the support of the group, the program has definitely had a deep and positive impact, not only for me, but also my family. The one thing that made the biggest difference for me after joining the program, that I used to operate in what is called life happened by me, where I needed to be always in control. I was afraid to really step into the unknown, to really switch to life happens through me mode, where I give up the idea of being in control, that I actually surrender and trust. And this has given me a lot of freedom, and it's really giving me to courage, like really over my fears. And today, not only I'm excited that I'm gonna open the door of Coffee in pretty much within the year after I joined the program, but more than anything, I'm also excited that I'm no longer looking for perfection, that I feel aliveness and alignment within myself, And I'm not afraid to really honor my struggle, to really face my challenges each and every day, no matter how big or small they are. I'm really ready to serve others.
Hi.
Okay, so we just wanted to share those with you. There's more, but we'll keep going here. Just a word about Lillian, who was the one that you just were watching. Her shop, her coffee opened up on Memorial Day weekend. And each week they keep doubling what they've done the week before. So now her biggest problem is they can't hire enough people to actually staff it. So you know, we're working with them on that too, but it's a family business. Her and her husband both left, each of them probably about 20 years each in retail. They both left careers in retail to start this adventure. So we're so proud of them. So what does that mean? You know, what we're saying to you is, we are making it available. We're so grateful you showed up here today. So we're making a strategy session available to you. It's free of charge. I'm going to put the link in the chat box in a little while. But a lot of these people's journeys began as a result of a session where we got to ask them some questions and we got to go much deeper. You know, it's often been said that the quality of your life depends on the quality of the questions that you ask yourself or that somebody asks you. And so we really are so fortunate to be able to hold space for you as you do this exploration. So there's no strings attached here. I'll put the link in the chat box. You can grab it. You're going to answer a few questions. And then when you hit submit, it'll bring you to a Calendly page where you can schedule it. So there's just this great quote here that I think is so powerful. And it's a quote from Abraham Lincoln. And he said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 sharpening the axe."
It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who becomes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with these cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Obviously, I'm reading The Men in the Arena by Teddy Roosevelt. You know, nothing happens without stepping in the arena or getting started, as we've said all along.
So I went ahead, thank you for that. I went ahead and typed the link to the free session in the chat box. So you can go ahead and grab that.